physical world that some of us imagine. There's an outreaching, an ongoing pulsation of collaboration among the Novi and the environment of Pandora. And then, of course, there was this mineral, this unobtainium, not particularly a theological value that we might aspire to, but a very recognizable challenge that I think we each face in our personal lives. In honesty, we all struggle at times in want to be more, in want to be better, in want to be different, other than what we are. And the movie asks us, as I hope that we ask ourselves, to contain our drive for the unobtainable within the context of gratitude for who we are, for what we have, and for what we are able to do. The movie asks us to transcend what is not in order to make the most of what is. One of the pieces that I found most endearing was a practice of the Novi people. It was not as though they lived a very all lovey-dovey, la-la land kind of existence where everything was just swell all the time. They had issues and conflicts among themselves just as we do. The difference is that they had a means of helping them to get beyond those conflicts more quickly than we're sometimes able to do. It's a way that we might well learn from. When faced with an interpersonal challenge or struggle, the Novi would look deeply and directly into the other's eyes until they could honestly declare, "I see you." Is that a good one for anyone else? I love that. It was something like the old Quaker greeting, "The God in me seeks and sees the God in you." When the Novi said, "I see you," it meant that they were looking through whatever was happening with the other into what held them in common with Ewa, this spirit mother. How many of us in a heated moment sometimes find ourselves wishing that there was just a way to step out of this anger that we're in and instead step into the loving relationship that we know is a larger part of the relationship with the other person? It's not just something that happens, but there is a way for us to do this. It takes courage as well as caring. And it must always be a way that comes out of our choosing and out of our making. It does not just happen. It's about finding a way through the challenge of the moment until we can look deeply into the eyes of the other, until we can declare, "I see you." So even as the drama leading up to the battle scene mounted, even as the inhabitants of Pandora begin working in collaborative, cooperative ways to stave off the onslaught of the invading humans, I found myself holding out hope that there might be some imaginative, creative, and largely non-violent way for them to win the day. My hope was in vain. With all of the tangible and perceptible interconnections at their disposal, the Novi and their beastie allies had to resort to the very same tactics as the ones being used by the earthling invaders in order to defend themselves. I want you to understand something about what I'm saying here. The Novi were victims in this story, and I'm not trying to blame the victim. In the real world, when an oppressive power seeks to obliterate those in its way, those who are opposed, those who are oppressed, are forced to review their options and then to respond with the most secure route to survival. So where do they find those options that they might choose from? They find them, first of all, by the things they find in their hands. They find them in the resources around them. And primarily, I think, they find their options of recourse, their imaginations and ideas that are guided by the metaphors and the mythologies of their culture. How do we think of things? By what we know, by what the stories are that we live our lives out of. And my disappointment in the final part of the movie, Avatar, was not in the Na'vi. It was in the failure of the filmmakers to imagine, with all the resources they had at hand, a new and different path, a nonviolent defiance and defense and solution to the onslaught created by the invaders who were created by the filmmakers who could have imagined a different way? How do we hope to change the metaphors and the mythologies and the theologies of our culture, even if our visionaries of this age suffer from such myopia, even if they suffer from such a failure of imagination? Avatar, with all of its innovative technology and its grasp of the significance of the interconnected interdependence of all things, a substantial grasp. Even with all of that, they could not go that next step in imagining the creation of a mythology of a new and a nonviolent way of thinking, a new and a nonviolent paradigm. Such a mythology, such a theology, I think, is one of the few ways that can get us out of this incredible mess that we've gotten ourselves into as the perpetrators of violence against our own bodies, against one another, and against our planet. We Americans live in the context of a mythology that tells us that we are the best thing that has ever happened. In our hymnal, there is a hymn that we do not ever sing, but the text of it is, "We are of life, its shining gift, the measure of all things." That kind of arrogance is here. It's all around us. We are a part of it. It is the mythology that we function out of. This mythology is rampant throughout our culture, and if it is questioned, if it is defied by others in the world, the American way is to stomp it out. The movie Avatar might be able to help us to see our greedy and violent ways. It sets out to help us to see them, and it does a really excellent job of that, I think. But it fails to help us imagine a different way. It merely poses the old paradigm of violence as the threat, and then violence as the only answer to that threat. In order for the Na'vi to survive, they have to pull off some kind of a military victory, as though no other option exists. How do we hope to change the metaphors and the mythologies and the theologies of a culture in dire need of transformation? I guess we can't leave that up to others. Our poets need to dream. Our writers need to write. Our filmmakers need to envision. And we need to have faith. We need to keep the faith. We need faith that there are new ways possible, that we can imagine those ways, and that we can find ourselves capable of living into them. Doing the same old thing can only get the same old results. Doing what is daring for the sake of goodness, though, is often doing what has never been done. It is doing what must be done. And that story is ours to dream, ours to write, ours to tell. That story is ours to live. I see you, and I have faith in you. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life-giving love and love-giving life. Spirit of driving rain and roaring wind. Spirit that cleanses, even as it sometimes brings destruction. We have come to find our place within the larger web that holds us all. We have come to clean ourselves. We've come to be empowered by the grace of our gathering, by the strength of our gathering, so that each of us might find in our places of hurt a healing that helps us to take our next step, so that each of us might find in a world that hurts the wherewithal